I want to become a totally different person? So I'd say in repeating the cycles, please make sure you pick the good traits, the good things. Hizo vitu zenye ni toxic, lenga hizo.
CJ, how do we then use this information, knowing very well that people don't go very far off from what they learned within their home about love, about connection, about acceptance and all that, and validation? How do we use this information to really empower people in terms of the choices they make in their relationships? You can talk to dads out there, talk to moms, both who are in a good, positive relationship and them that are actually in a toxic relationship. How do we work with this?
I think I would begin by talking to the people who are trying to relate, because they find their parents coming onto the scene. So when two people are relating, the lady is looking for her dad, probably the man is looking for his mom. Already that situation is a bit difficult because their parents are not married to each other.
Yeah.
If I'm coming in, my mother was married to my dad, and so this lady who's coming in, her father was married to her mom. So we are actually trying to pull two people from different marriages to begin working it out. So what worked in my home may not work here because the players were different. That's the first thing that people have got to recognize, that worked for those people. They developed their culture, they developed their systems, their ecosystem. And if I'm going to carry it into this place, first of all, it will take work, because the other person also has grown up with certain things, looking at things in a certain way, which brings us to the place of communication then. Talking about why certain things are important. It's significant, though, to have these non-negotiables, and those are things like your values, where you know that, well, I'm coming into this, I'm not expecting you to be my mother, but I expect you to be respectful, because I'm not used to disrespect, and it is just a good thing for you to be respectful. Yeah. I don't expect you to do certain things. For example, no matter what issues, for example, I would have in my marriage, we don't shout at each other. So that thing has affected me to the point that even when I just meet an ordinary lady, you raise your voice, that's unfamiliar. Because I'm not used to that. I'm not even used to it in my own house. Like, we can disagree, but we're not going to do that. So you can't bring that. So it teaches, you can take certain things and say, this one is a non-negotiable. You don't scream, you don't shout. If we have an issue, we talk. You could have things like, you saw people resolving conflict without allowing it to take too long. And you say, I would love to have this. You could have things like people who are eating dinner together, and you feel that's a good trait, which somebody can learn. So the thing is, when you're bringing in your expectations from your background, make sure that they're also realistic expectations, and they are building what you have. You're not just bringing unrealistic expectations, and you're not bringing something that the other person cannot meet, but you also have to understand they're coming from a certain background, and unlearning what they know may take time. So you've got to be patient. That's where the communication and conversations come from. For the parents who raise children, you see, I love what Bobby was talking about. You've got to be very intentional, because you're not even just raising kids for marriage, you're raising them for life. They will be out there in communities, at work, even by themselves out there. So what kind of a person do you want them to be when they're going out there? Do you want them to be entitled? Do you want them to be responsible? Do you want them to be respectful? Do you want them to be angry when you're fighting in front of them over and over, and they can't do anything? They well up their anger as well. Somewhere along the line, this thing will come out. Just somewhere along the line, and it may come out through them dissociating from everybody, going into seclusion, never talking, so people will think this person is an introvert. Sometimes they're not introverted, they're just angry, and they do not know how to bring out their anger. Sometimes they become violent, or they become very sarcastic. So when you're raising your children as well, even when you have, for example, conflict, how do you handle conflict in front of your children, so that as you resolve your issues, you are not breaking the template and messing it up for these people? How would you want your daughter to turn up? And as you raise the standard, you also have got to tell them, you may not find somebody like me. out there. So it's the reality check. It's the reality check. Like, you may need to have a bit of compromise, but as long as you find somebody who loves you, appreciates you, respects you, there are things that are reasonable to expect. There are things that are reasonable to expect. You know, those ones are not too much. It is reasonable to expect a man to take care of you, to protect you, to defend you, to affirm you, to be there for you. That is very reasonable, and you should never feel bad about that. It is reasonable to expect the same from a woman as well. When it goes to the extra things, like whether your man will take you to the Maldives or something, that's different.
That is important.
It is important, but that's different.
It should happen.
That's different. That's different because he can still take you there and disrespect you right there.
Yeah.
He can still take you to the Maldives and totally disrespect you. And you just feel like you want to pick the next flight and come back home. So there are those things that you would look at and say, these values, these ones are non-negotiable. So even when QT is talking about, you know, the dad is to put the 200, it's not the 200 that is the thing. It is the thought that this man was thinking about his family, that this man wanted his family to have a sense of stability. He wanted the family to be sustained. So it's the thought that he has put to that no matter what it costs him, he's going to do this. He has placed value on the family. And so when she's expecting that from the man, it's not really the money that she's talking about. It's a man who values, thinks about, and wants to take care of his family.
But QT, how many... You know the question I want to ask. Wanaume kama hao ni wangapi huko hivi?
We, utatafuta.
Hao je amewascribe
Sisi akiongea para wangalia tu.
Ni wangapi huko nje?
Wachache sana.
Huko kuna
soko huko nje.
Do we have men who understand, you know, what it means, yeah? Actually, nimesikia sentiments kama misi babako, misi mamako. Like, people feel you're asking for too much. Like, you're expecting too much from this relationship. Ni wangapi?
We, ni wachache sana, by the way. Yeah. Ni wachache sana. And that is why utapata. Venye tunasema the same way parenthood should be like intentional. Ata relationships zinafaa kuwa intentional. Because why are you getting into a relationship just for the sake of it? Kwani unataka tu kuingia kwa relationship? And that is why I keep on saying, Mimi, I will always set my standards and say, you see, this is what I want. I can compromise ABCD, but these ones I cannot compromise. Kuna vitu tu personally siwezi juu. Probably the things that I'm looking for, the values that I'm looking for in a man, iyo to the thought. Anaweza kosata kwa cheo sombili, but every day jioni anakuja na something. Unaget? So, venye tu sija amesema, not necessarily, it's not even about the money, it's the thought that counts. Umse anafanya nini kuensure familia yake iko secure, familia yake iko well provided for, familia yake tu venye umesema, you need a man who leads you, protects you, unaget, mtu anakudefend. When it lavish, yani lavish, hapo kwa lavish umesema. Leo umesema hapo kwa lavish. Unajua, na it doesn't even have to be the Maldives, you know. Yani kuna hiyo tu kitu yenye msetu anakuambia just pack your bags to share. Unaget, like kuna tu zile vitu zenye unataka kuona. Na mimi hakuna ati trip ati mzai, nakumbuka tu tukipelekwa akina health gate nini, tukipelekwa places kuziona, but you see that really counted. Na maybe probably hapo ndo nilitoa hiyo kitu ya kushinda nikitravel. I do not know where it even came from, but probably it came from there. Na hata haikuwa ati yote ilikuwa a big deal. Unaget, ukienda Thompson Falls, ukienda hizo places kuzicheki, yani you used to feel like we are going as a family. Kuna hiyo unity, mtatoka mwende ka familia, mwende mjibambe, you get. So probably you're just looking for those kind of small things. Sundays zinakuangaza family, nikisikia zinakuangaza family, strictly family. Peleka watoi out, hiyo ni family day strictly. Monday to Friday you can do whatever you want, but weekends are for family. So sometimes unaweza kuwa busy as you want. We fanya mambo yako, tutafutie do. But hiyo do ujue without family hakuna malio ndio inakupeleka. At the end of the day unaweza kuwa na all the money in the world but unaweza kuwa the saddest person in the world at the same time. Yani uko na all the money in the world but hauna hiyo ama fami iko but hata wakurecognize wakutambua, unajoga tu wewe ofisi trips za job na nini, you don't even care about the family. So I think it really depends. Na hizo childhood traumas zenye tunasema akisafiri acha nikushow. I love telling the story of the two sons, the dad and the two sons. The dad was a drunkard. Alikuwa anakuja anapiga mama yao, but boy mmoja aliturn out kwa babake, ule mwingine akagrow up akasema mimi I don't want to be anything like my dad. So also that is also a very important point to note, because unaweza kuwa umegrow up kwa familia yenye haiko stable, haiko lavish, haina hiyo love yote, but now ukigrow up there are people who really work hard to ensure that my child will not go through what I went through. My child will not suffer at ile love yenye babangu hakunipatia, mtoi wangu hata ifilio gap. So it really depends with you, Safin. What do you want for yourself? Na vile pia Bobby amesema you need to be very intentional. Unajua mtoi ni a whole human being and that's a lifetime job. Unajua kuna mali unachokaga kasa hizi mamangu, she calls me every time, uko sawa, mko poa. Yani madhe unicall kuniuliza kama niko poa. Hadi sometimes najiambia gawa, hadi saa hizi it's a lifetime job and I know even with time hata ufike 50, as long as your mom is alive and she's still there or your dad, they will always call you to ask you how are you doing, uko poa leo. You're still a child to them.
You will always be.
Kukuwa parent, it's a lifetime job. So relationship needs to be intentional, all of them. Na pia being a parent, vile Bobby amesema, you need to be intentional because this is a lifetime job. This is a whole human being and you're responsible for how they turn out to be.
All right. Bobby, I wanted to talk to, because of your passion for self kujijua na kujielewa, talk to people who, based on how they were brought up and based on the environment yenye wali grow, they've ended up in all the wrong relationships. How do you understand that pattern and how do you break it? You know, for somebody who probably is in that, unajikuta tu wewe vitu zikuendeangi vizuri, na hata ukikumbuka childhood yako, that's how things used to be back at home. Hiyo pattern inatokananga na nini?
Kwanza wale watu husema I'll never fall in love, I'll never get to another relationship, I'm done. Hint, hint. Wale watu kwa hiyo space, men are trash. Yeah, women, take 24 hours to fear women, and such comments. These things are in your reality because they are the beliefs you have. It's the things you believe in, it's the things you accept, it's the things you allow, it's the people you hang around. Now me, I always say, you know me, some conversations, I have them here, or I have them when I'm, like, I hardly talk about some things because they're not in my reality. Like when people say, men are horrible, the men I hang around are like CJ, honestly. Like, how can that sentence...
Not to be in your world.
How can that sentence come out of my mouth? You see, when it's not really my reality. And it's true. Maybe CJ can tell us, you know, whatever you create for yourself is what becomes your reality. And I didn't go seeking out CJ. We met here. Yeah. We became friends from here. So it just shows, like, the things you're in line with, the things on your frequency, they align with you. Let me tell you, all of us here, you know, we've bonded on our different levels. CJ has told us about his family. CJ is a perfect example ya hiyo story nani QT amepeana. Yeah, a father who was sijui how, and then one son became like this.
Choose
one
to
son.
Be better.
Exactly. That's the point I'm driving at. Even if QT, you have your stories with your family. Even me, I'm very open with stories about like where I'm from. So hizi story hatuzitoi sijui wapi. Hizi ni stories real life examples. The reason tuko vile tuko ni kwa sababu ya intentionality. You're presented with, you reach a junction and you just decide, what do I want? Do I want to go to the gym? Do I want to just
You know, you just decide, do I want to be a better person? And this intentionality, once you start applying it in your whole life, it reflects in everything you do. It will reflect, I always say, it'll reflect in your money, in your friendships, in your relationships. And you have to remember, these processes are very psychological. They don't happen ati hapa. You don't ati see ati today. Like I could, like Kitty alini visit last week. Alinifanyia ka shopping. Akakuja kuni visit. Visit ilikuwa iko tu ya udaku. Unajua udaku kiasi. Kitty akani surprise. Unaona? It was a choice. It's a decision she would have made. Not that it would have made me love her less. Angekuja mkono tupu. I'd be fine because of our friendship, you know. But she made a choice. What does that do in my brain? It shows me this girl is actually really intentional about me. Me, when I go to her house, how can I show up mkono tupu?
Yeah.
You see, it's just reflection. It's the way you show up for me, I end up showing up for you. And even if I wouldn't have money to show up for her like that, because of the relationship we have, you can always see, you can see the intention, you can see the love. So please, let me now bring it back to self to answer the question. You have to work on yourself so that this can show up in everything that you do. You have to be intentional about the kind of person you are because it reflects on the people next to you. If you're working on yourself, you're able to show up better for other people. If you're kind to yourself, you're graceful to yourself, you're sweet and romantic with yourself, utajipata tu, it's so easy to be like that with other people. And the people who do not accept this kind of treatment, people who are not okay with like good feelings, they'll just drop off. Wanajitoanga tu. It's like a moth to a light. People who see your light, people who see your frequency, people who feel your love and your vibe, they'll always gravitate towards you. People who are not so sure, you'll see who them and like, who them, you'll see.
Alright.
So please work on yourself so that you can show up for others and you can notice amazing traits in other people.
One thing you said there that stood out for me, be romantic with yourself. I mean, would I expect it that way hata hajui?
Hata ujui romance. How do you romance alafu hapo unasema I want him to do this for me, I want him. Lazima ujue hizo feelings ndio uweze kuzirecognize. Because sometimes maybe you want to go to Maldives but you have a husband who wakes up earlier than you, makes a nice breakfast for you, he tells you affirmations in the morning, he'll massage you, he'll put your toothbrush vizuri, nini. You know, if you're obsessed with Maldives, you're not going to see this
little thing.
This thing he's doing here about breakfast. Na tumesema, it's not about the money, it's not about me, it's about the intention, the feeling he leaves you with, the thought. That's what it's about.
All right. CJ, do parents have a role to play in prepare? I know you say parents prepare people for marriage and life. I want to talk about the marriage part. How can they do that? What happens? Like, for example, a father and a daughter, what are some of the things that a father can do to sort of like redirect their daughter in the path that they will find themselves in the right relationship? Same to a mother. What should happen within the home setup?
I think conversations around expectations and reality would really help, because my generation is different from my children's generation. But then there are those things, as I say, there are certain values that will transcend different generations. Just the things like honesty, the things like respect, the things like, you know, being emotionally present, empathetic, those ones transcend all generations. When it comes now to things like economic status, those are things that do change. Sometimes you find somebody coming into somebody's life and they're not at a good place, but then you can see within them that they are honest, they're hardworking, they're passionate passionate, they have a vision, there's somewhere they want to go. So if you have these conversations, if there's an openness around the conversations, then we can get to pick what our children are facing, and they can get to know what their parents are thinking. The disconnect normally is the superimposing of the past generation on the current generation, or the current generation thinking that there's nothing they can draw from the older generation. They feel that was your time, that was your day, things are different right now. But generations are a continuum. There's absolutely nothing completely new. Whatever has been is what shall be. So if there is a conversation, it becomes like a relay. I've run up until this point, here's the baton. So what are the things that we can pick from our generation that would go into the next? So do not disrespect somebody. Not because of their background, not because of their economic status. Those are not the things that you really look at. You look at their values. I'll emphasize that. You look at their values. You prepare your children to treat people as human beings. Don't even tell them, be with them because you don't know who they will be tomorrow. I think that is very manipulative. So what happens if they don't become that person tomorrow? Because there's a possibility that they will become that kind of person. There are also people who have been caged in those kind of relationships, hoping that the person will become something tomorrow, and then the person never becomes anything. So if they have valid things that they're looking for, if my daughter comes and says, there is this gentleman, but then I feel he has no self-drive, I shouldn't invalidate it and insist and say, just hang in there, maybe he will change. Because that is how we keep the communication and we talk about the things that they're looking at. I have a moment there then to talk about this whole person. And we look at the things that the person has and brings to the table. And if there's some that are not meeting a reasonable threshold, then she can make the decision by herself, so that we avoid the things of kids getting into relationships and marriages because they don't want to disappoint their parents, then they end up walking out of them. Also, so that we don't have kids who will not get into relationships because they're looking for their parents. So I think it's a conversation, open conversation, listening, appreciating that both generations have something to bring to the table, trying to understand each other. So for me, I would be a coach. Not making the decisions, yes, but saying, well, I'm not sure if that is the case, if this is what they're saying and doing, maybe you need to raise these conversations. And I do that not just because now I have more children than just my biological ones. I've got a lot of people that I would mentor. And we have those kind of conversations. And sometimes they say, why don't you get this conversation with them? There are times when somebody is telling me, I'm breaking up with this. I said, no, you're not breaking up that fast. Go and have this conversation so that by the time you actually want to break up, you have given this person an opportunity and a chance both to change, explain themselves, express themselves. You have given some time so that you're not just going to jump out, because there's no guarantee the next person you will meet will be perfectly what you want. So if we have these conversations, then we're able to help them make better decisions.
Do fathers in the African home understand that, wewe itabidi chali yako useme amekuja kuomba kitabu. I mean, there's that level of disconnect that is usually there, with parents not really very comfortable discussing matters relationship with their daughters or their sons. I don't know how it was in your home, but in my home, that was unheard of.
I think my dad has always opened that door.
Yeah.
We have any conversation. I think with my dad we've always had any and every conversation that like anaweza kachini akulize umetuweka sana na unajua kwani unapangaje?
Inakujanga baadaye.
Unasema tukianza. I think my mom was the strict one.
Yeah.
My mom has always been the strict one in our home. Like ataki kusikia hizo vitu zote. Hizo story zote my mom has never like really wanted to hear that. But with my dad, even with my dress code and all that growing up, mimi nakumbuka hata nikiva trouser, my mom was like just against it. But on the other hand, my dad is like, you have to be what you have to be. If that's how you feel comfortable, iko tu sawa. So with my dad, I've always had the easy way out. Let me say it that way. Na si ati hakuwa mkali, alikuwa mkali, but always opening that door. Zile za we can have this conversation. Kama ni mbaya, atakuambia like, okay, hapo hujafanya poa, hapo ulikosea. And most of the time, and the funny thing, hata nikisema my mom was more strict, but my mom alikuwa ananisetigi kwa my dad. Alikuwa anampigia simu anamwambia sasa hapa itabidi umecome through. Juu sasa huyu imefika mahali sasa hawezi sikia kitu. And when my dad makes that call, sijui kama sijui nitaita respect ama ni nini, but nitatii. Unajua ile ya umetii, but endo alikuwa the soft. I don't know if it makes sense. He was always the softer parent, but come through to ile, I think because of leadership and all that, father akisema kitu amesema, and you always like, you have to listen to that. But coming back to yenye kitambo ilikuwa hard sana kuongea stories za relationship. Nowadays I think people are bringing boyfriends to them.
Do you find it important that parents should actually soften up and begin having these conversations like CJ is this
very important in terms of, first of all, unajua ilikuwa tabu kuongea about sex. No one wants to hear the name sex anywhere.
Unasema sex, boyfriend.
Sex pale kwa gate ati umekuja kuonana nani. Mimi nakumbuka hata incident, kuna boy ashika mkunitafuta home and my mom alimpasha by the way, na akamwambia haiwezi. By the way, my mom alimwambia nisiwahi kuona. Mimi sijui nilikuwa wapi tu, boy chala alikuja kunitafuta. And many other moms, they are like, cheki. Even our parents have conversations behind our backs na wana agree hawa si wafai kuonana. So by the time unakuja and you're like, bro, ni nini mbaya uniongeleshe utafuti? And you know those days we used to use our mom's phone. Me used to use my mom's phone. Lakini hakuwa anajua. Ama alikuwa anajua but alikuwa, I don't know which. Mimi nilikuwa natumia phone ya mother, sitawahi sahau. Nilikuwa natumia phone ya mother, lakini no si alikuwa na doze. Mother akikuja ifike 9 hivi, si mother ashalala kwa kiti, news zinaendelea melala. Mimi nimechukua simu, si ati amenipea, nimeiba simu. Niko hapa niko busy na chat na boyfriend. Lakini na wewe by the time nisikie mother ametani hivi, nisha delete na nikamwambia usitext tena good night. But hizo ndo vitu zilikuwa zina happen jote kwa na simu enzi. Tunajua sasa hizi watu wengi wako na masimu, they can do whatever they want if you're not monitoring. But in our days, phone ulisikia umetoa wapi simu, so unachukua ya madhe, unachat na boycha, mshapanga mambo ya kesho venye mtamit wapi saa ngapi,
na mtamit
bila simu na bado mtapatana. But by the time madhe ameamka anaenda kulala, nisharudisha phone ama nishaiweka bedroom yake kicharge, nishamwekea kwa charger. Hata kama haikuwa need charge, nishamwekea tu kwa charge. Iko wapi simu yangu? Iko huko bedroom na charge. You know, such kind of things. But I think it's important that parents have these conversations, because I think you want your child to come and talk to you about the boyfriend. Yeah. Because if the child is not talking to you about the boyfriend, who are they talking to about that boyfriend? So it's important mtoi wako akwe, be the first person that your child comes to when they have an issue, whether ni boyfriend, whether it's sexual, whether it's any conversation. Imagine be the person that mtoi wako akufungulie roho. It's actually safer, because imagine mtoi wako akama kwambia, hey, by the way mom, kuna huyu boy fulani aliniambia kitu fulani, ama uncle yangu amefanya kitu fulani and I feel uncomfortable. Hautaki mtoi wako akuje kwambia hizi vitu zote. I think it's very important that as much as you're being a parent and you're being strict, but open that door that your children can have and can come to you and have these conversations with, because hautaki kusikilia story huko ati mtoi wangu alifanya nini, wapi, unataka wewe ndio kwa kwanza useme I already know and I've already dealt with we are dealing with it. But imagine ukienda kusikia huko story huko nje, teacher anakuja kukwambia unajua mtu wako anafanya kitu fulani, mtu wako anafanya kitu fulani, by the way utabambika.
Yeah, there are so many parents who've been shocked when mtoto karibu anajifunga. Your daughter is
hata ujui, you have no idea.
They have a boyfriend.
So I think it's important as parents kindly just open that door to your children. Right. Let them come to you. Let them be the first. Wewe ukwe best friend yake. Akuja kuambia hata before niambie Bobby, nishampigia nikamwambia hapa kinaumana.
Bobby, tunatafuta fathers kwa hawa wanaume. But do you know they are also looking for mothers in this and are we ready to be those?
You know, now that I had the inverse, it seems that are very unfair. It seems very unfair that tunatafuta.
Lakini pia wao mjue wanatafuta mama yao.
You know what? I think it's okay to have preferences, and I think it's okay to have things that you like, especially if they're really, really good qualities. And actually, I think you should know what you want so that you go for what you want. Usiende Roberta kama unataka mtu anapika 3 meals a day. Utalala njaa.
What do you mean?
Msichana wa take out. Hey, we.
Totila. Totila chips.
Inside joke. Utateseka.
Utakonda.
Na mimi siwezi endea mtu mwenye sijui ananilenganga forever ama anipei pesa aje sasa. Aje. Kila mtu tu aende what you know what, as long as your preference is not harmful to anyone, to yourself or to the other person, as long as it's good qualities, you know, I can say siwezi endea mtu anipei pesa, but explanation yangu ni deeper than that. Maybe it means someone financially stable. It's okay to want someone who's financially stable, not just for me, not for us or for our family, for themselves. They should be able to be a human being who can take care of themselves. Easy to need examples. Say it naongea tu.
Want somebody who's financially stable for you. For your
No, but it's stable for your own good. It makes sense. It makes sense. Listen, it makes sense to be with someone who can take care of themselves. You know, even minus you, like you have the confidence. It's the same thing CJ is talking about in parenthood, where it reaches a point you become now the coach. You've done your teaching. Now you just sit back and watch. Your job is consultation. You know, you're not really making the decisions for these people because now you've realized these are adults. They have their own personalities. They have they're individuals. Like they make their own decisions. Maybe you like football. Saka san wako anataka kwenda football. Utampeleka practice. It's you now becoming someone who can watch. And this is the thing. As a parent, it's just your job to make sure these people grow up into model people who can survive Earth without you. Right. It's sad and it's painful. Like now my mom is not around. So kuna hiyo feeling ya, oh my God, now I'm just here alone on Earth. But wherever she is, she has the confidence that this girl, and I had to assure her. Yesterday, she's traveling away. So yesterday before she left, you know, I could see the tears in her eyes and like her voice breaking, like, will you guys be okay? But then I had to keep reassuring her that you've done a good job. Imagine, like, look at your kids. These are people who can make decisions for themselves. Why are you worried about anything? So I'd say that please just bring it back to self, not just the parents, not just the kids, everyone. Look after yourself to the point that you're able to make model decisions, because it's not just good for you, it's good for everyone else who's around you.
All right, but hapo kwa told that can answer for your own good. Financially stable for your own good. But I can also benefit. Thank you so much. At Roberta Bobby, at QT Lady Josh, at CJ Atemo, at Safina_Ching on social media, at Citizen TV Kenya. Let's keep this conversation going. We have agreed that parents have an influence in the choice of a partner and in the decisions that you make in your relationship. So wazazi tafadhali, know that that is actually very possible. So whatever you do within your marriage, within your family, know that your kids are watching. And for those who come from very toxic families, probably there was something that was happening that, and for you your loved one. And love is a beautiful thing. If it didn't work for your parents, doesn't mean that it can't work for you. Yeah? All right, so that's how we wind it up right here on a Daybreak. We really appreciate your company. Thank you so much. We'll do this again next week, Tuesday. Do join us for that and much more.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Dial *811 *495# to get our Father.
Ngozi yako ina glow. Nilijipaka mafuta leo asubuhi nikikam, lakini skin yangu ishaparara. It looks so dull. Sis. See, it's the new nice and lovely lemon extract body lotion. Hiyo ndio secret yangu to a moisturized and bright skin. Mix.
New nice and lovely lemon lotion, enriched with vitamin C and sunflower seed oil for 48-hour nourishing glow and brighter skin. Try nice and lovely lemon lotion today.
Afya ni kigezo muhimu katika maisha. Usafi, mazoezi kawaida, afya bora ikichangia maisha bora kwa kiwango kikubwa. Na kwa kuwa afya ni muhimu kwako na wewe ni muhimu kwetu, sasa tumejipanga kuangazia masuala mbalimbali yanayofungamana na afya yako.
Mtu akiwa na kilo mingi inaweza kuletea magonjwa mengi.
Pia tutajibu maswali yako moja kwa moja, huku tukizungumzia dhana zinazohusishwa na maradhi mbalimbali.
Yote hayo ni kwenye jukwaa la afya na Mwanahamisi Hamadi, kila Jumatano ndani ya Sema na Citizen.
Jipa, mimi nani. Now it's time to get extreme ice fresh. Ukiwa fresh all day, una stay fresh all night. Niki step onto the sea, nikiona venti, kishajua rada. Kona bro, be a boss man, be your own man. Ukiwa your own man, unakaa fiti na unasmell even better. Be your own man with new Vossman Extreme Ice.
Kenya's gold.
Don't even think about it, Mom. Hii ndio ilikuwa the last gift that dad alinipatia.
Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Citizen TV. Daybreak it is. I'm having a sit down with a panel. Actually, it's a very balanced panel. I didn't think about that. Two ladies and two gentlemen. We have with me in studio Mheshimiwa Richard.
So can I finish my few comments?
Yes.
You're giving
No, let me just just joining us, and we have also Diana Gishengo, the Executive Director, the Institute of Social Accountability. We have Mheshimiwa David MP Ugenya constituency, and Maina, the woman representative for Kirinyaga County. In case you're just joining us, we are looking at issues that are shaping conversation in the country. This particular morning, the state that now the head of state is currently in, of course, just after unveiling the first part of the list of the cabinet that he is reconstructing. We are also looking at parliament that is resuming their sittings today. There's a lot that they will be doing, including even vetting that particular list of nominees of cabinet. And we just want to pick up from where we left before we went on break. And Mheshimiwa Ochieng, you suggested that you had very deep concerns about the list that was unveiled by the head of state concerning the cabinet. And one of the key mandates that you have as members of parliament is to vet the people who will be coming to, in front of you. I mean, I don't know whether the public can have that faith and hope that parliamentarians are going to do something about the key concerns that have been raised with regards to some of the people that have made it to that particular list, Mheshimiwa.
I must say, first of all, that, for example, the CSs have been returned. Some of them are my very close friends. Like Kindiki taught me for 4 years. I was his researcher and he was doing his PhD. I know him so well. Teacher is my very close friend. But I wanted to say this, that no one must serve as CS in this country. There are not those who must be ministers.
Among the 6 or?
I'm just saying, no, in Kenya, not everyone, nobody must.
Oh, it's not a must.
So that, that you must be minister, or that you must be PS, or you must be something, you must be MP. No. You know, when these young guys went to the streets and the president decided to, dismiss his cabinet, I thought he was serious. Once you dismiss these guys, it doesn't matter whether you think one of them is competent or not. You already said they don't deserve to be in that cabinet. And I'm not talking about public lynching. I'm not talking about mob justice or injustice for that matter. No. You can't dismiss them, then 2 weeks later and then tell us that now you're going to bring them back. I believe there's a level at which there must be some modicum of decency and use of common sense in the way you do our things. If the reason you dismiss your cabinet is that they have, in quotes, failed you, because that's what you said.
Yes.
So in 2 weeks' time, which university have they gone to? What have they just done that have made them now, look like they know everything else, they can help you out? And this is what the young people are talking about. We as leaders, we are being, in fact, the cartoon yesterday was that we are being turned deaf. We aren't listening. I want to ask my 5 friends, because I served with Wahome, a very tough lady, Emiano, a senior lawyer. If they want to help this president today, they would refuse their nomination to cabinet.
Okay.
So that
suggestion.
Because it looks like the public thinks that there's something really about them that they must be the cabinet. They should disabuse us of that notion. Step aside and say, no, if our being in cabinet is going to cause problems for the president, for the country, we stand aside. Douala is a very good leader. I served with him for 2 terms in parliament. I mean, tough guy. But you must not die with government. Yeah, you can say this, I think, I've had my chance. If my being in this space is not tenable, then I cede ground for someone else so that we are able to build together, move forward together. You'll have a chance to serve in the future. That's what I would tell my friends that end there. In terms of the vetting, which, if you allow me, I could make a comment on. You know, the way we do our vetting in Parliament today is such that, you know, there are things that would pass, there are things that would not pass. But sometimes we don't put our energies on the things that are necessary for us to ensure that someone is competent to serve. This cabinet that is just leaving, I don't know if you remember when we vetted them, the issues that were raised out on everybody and all that. And I just wanted to say something as an end on this, that when I was younger, I listened to President Kibaki campaigning in 02. And then I listened to Raila and Kibaki campaigning in 07. Then I listened to Uhuru and Raila campaign, and then last elections. All of them have always been citing Singapore and Malaysia and South Korea about how they leapfrogged the development quickly. One of the major cardinal principles of this country that I've mentioned is meritocracy in appointing public officials. Competence is key, has always been. Now, we're not going to build Singapore. We're not going to build Malaysia or South Korea in this country if we still have to second guess those who we appoint. It won't work. I want to
we also have to look at the team that is in charge of bringing that.
Meritocracy is very key. Competence is very key. This thing about regional balance, ethnic balance should come third, fourth. The first thing is, because you're not going to have a minister of agriculture who can differentiate between fertilizer and stones. It doesn't going to work. We're not going to they run this country in that manner. If you're not going to get a minister for water who can differentiate between water and oil, it's certain. We must put our mouths where our monies are.
All right, Mheshimiwa Ochieng, I also want to just quickly cross over to, Mheshimiwa Onyonka on whether, could the president have been misunderstood? I mean, because we are suddenly surprised that a cabinet that was deemed unfit to actually help the government achieve whatever it wanted to achieve, already on the first part of the list, I would say a majority, 6 is the majority of the 11, are the same people who served in the previous cabinet. I mean, what is your understanding of what could be going on here? Were they the good people that he actually had to retain in his team for things to work in this country?
Thank you so much. I had expected that the president would have interpreted everything differently, that he would have understood the issues which are being raised. The reason why this cabinet is being rejected by the Gen Zs and many people, including myself, I have a friend actually who was appointed, I even congratulated him. But the point that is critical out here is very simple. Why is the president sticking with these people who everybody knows their character, their behavior, their past, and their histories? Not that I'm passing aspersions against them. Why is it that the president is not able to pick new Kenyans who are highly qualified, who are people of substance, including the young? I had expected him to pick about 4 members of these Gen Z groups. Purely not because he was trying, is for show, simply because some of them have been so brilliant. If you listen to how those kids are arguing, you are like, yes, I mean, I see this one can actually be a minister for environmental issues. When you are looking, you can say, hey, this one I think can make an engineer. He's an engineer, he can actually be the minister for ICT. They know their stuff. All they need to do is be taken to Kenya School of Government, and in a month or 2, they're done. The challenges affecting our country are much more weighty. They need a deeper understanding on what it is. It needs people who are going to be persuasive and yet reasonable, because the Gen Z community is not unreasonable, contrary to what everybody thinks. I mean, I repeated when we started here, why are they going to the airport? Imagine we are signing off our airport to be run by a private company, which is going to hold that for 30 years. And after the contract expires, they would keep equity in that arrangement of our airports at the rate of 18%, eternally. How did somebody sign an agreement like that? You see, so the questions that we have got.
Did you, as elected leaders, have wind of whatever arrangements or whatever agreements were going on with the
Actually, I was the whistleblower. I'm the one who has presented all the documents to the Senate, and I've given it to the media. If you check, it was a whistleblower from France, a young Kenyan boy who has been working in a sovereign fund of some country, saw the document passing through his desk. He forwarded to me, he said, Onyonka, the airport is gone. I don't know what you're going to do. Try your level best. These are the facts. Why can't the president stop anybody playing these corruption games? The point many people are asking, why are we having ourselves dig a hole which we are heading into, and yet we know what the solutions are? All right. Even when people are complaining about us trying to destroy the country because the Gen Zs are asking for questions, I've even heard somebody say that they're asking for questions which are unreasonable. They just want free education. They want to make sure that NHIF works. They want to make sure that when somebody is going to a hospital, they find medicines. They want to make sure that when you finish university and you are last in, you can't get a job when those ones who are before you 6 years ago are still tamarking in the streets. And then because this one who finished the other day happens to be my daughter, because I am a senator or because I'm a PS, then I employ him and I leave somebody. What do you do with those people who are at the deep end? These children are at the deep end, highly qualified, gone to school quite well, don't even have any criminal record. They are at home. They are unemployed. Some of these kids, when you go to the villages like where I come from and David, at the village level, the counties are not even employing them because this misgovernance that we are having at the national level is what has percolated to the county government.
All right.
You have governors who are employing their relatives. You have governors who are pilfering their funds. I thought the president was going to look at the thing from the top and sweep it all the way down.
But I'm wondering, though, Jerry, the president seems to be having a lot on his plate, and actually even talks have been that these are problems that didn't begin yesterday with just his administration alone. Kenya Kwanza did not create the problems that we're facing today. We've had arguments such as those. It seems like it's not easier than it's being said for him to really bring this country to where it's supposed to be. There's a lot of dynamics that sort of go into play when it comes to coming up with the proper solution for what the country is facing, Jerry.
It seems to be a catch-22 situation for the president, and Article 132 gives him the power to nominate members that he prefers for the cabinet. And then it also, Constitution goes ahead and gives Parliament the power to vet the persons that the president nominates. And I would not want to preempt, because those nominees, once gazetted, and the National Assembly is resuming today, I am certain that the priority business will be vetting the nominees in their respective committees. And then, of course, the report is tabled on the floor of the House. The members get to debate maybe 10 or 20 minutes. If there's any dissenting opinions, members of the public also contribute, because they send to us memorandums that we can present on the floor of the House. So for me, I think the issue has been a systemic failure for a long time. The system that was set in place once we gained independence is a system that does not, one, work for the common mananchi. It is a system that only entrenches bad governance, mediocrity, corruption. And even as Kenyans, we must also have that conversation with ourselves. What kind of leaders do we elect? Because then it reflects upon the society that we have. We cannot say that these leaders elected themselves. They did not put themselves into office. And at the local level, governance in all sectors, the young people must be involved. I'll give you an example.
in my county, you know, and I'm glad that Senator Onyonka says that it's the same in Kisii County. The hospitals do not have basic medication, even painkillers, even gloves. The system is not working for Wanjiku on the ground. There's no infrastructure. So you tell the Kenyan person.
Are you as part of the team of the president, are you passing this message to him? Is he listening? Because you seem to be having an understanding of what the country is going through. You understand the challenges. You have talked so passionately about even what the Gen Z demands are, but is he a listening president coming from his camp?
Oh, I do pass across the message. And you know, the good member of parliament for Silvanus is a member of parliament for Mugirango. We used to have a WhatsApp group where he removed me. Perhaps I'm very opinionated for his liking. But what I want to say is that I do pass across the message. Whether it is taken into context is something else. But we must all be accountable for what we have put in place. We must all be responsible for governance at the local level. As we are calling the national government to order, we must also occupy the counties. That is where all manner of looting is happening. Wanton wastage of public resources with no accountability.
This group, just to understand, this group was part of it was to advise the president and talk about such issues, or what was the purpose of the group that they removed you from?
No, it was just a group where we would air our views as members of Kenya Kwanza. But, you know, I have found it quite unfortunate that
and
some
your
people
views
have
were
an
not
issue.
welcome in that.
Apparently, some people had an issue with my views. But what I can say is that we must listen to what the people are saying. It is that the system is not working. And it is not only Gen Z who are saying the system is not working. Even the common Wanjiko in Kirinyaga County is saying this system is not working anymore. We pay taxes. And Kenyans do not have an issue with paying tax. They just want to see the tax applied or cascading down to development, to service delivery. We devolved corruption from where I sit, from what I have seen at the counties. People do not want to be held accountable on, say, perhaps project allocations. If we have a level 4 hospital, tell us how much money was spent on this hospital. Wanjiku does not know. People have a basic concern with having a discussion to have free education, because we want as politicians to be dangling the carrot to Wanjiku when we near the election period and tell them, oh, I gave you a bursary, so you must vote for me. So it is a whole accountability issue, and we must also as a people sit back and say, how can we fix this? I can assure you that the president cannot fix the systemic issues by himself.
All right. Then your organization is listed among 16 that are currently on the spot. Serious stuff going around that civil society organizations could just be part of the sponsors of the, you know, violence and the unruly behavior that we have seen out there. I'm just saying what, you know, is going around. And we have also had, you know, the latest development on what was said yesterday, that among the 16, only 3 apparently are registered, you know. The rest, we are wondering which organizations are these and are they operating legally? I mean, a lot has been said about the civil society organizations. Diana, what are your thoughts about what is going on?
Thank you very much. But let me first speak to where we are as a country, and that this is a systemic problem. When you are the driver of a bus or even a car, and it gets a puncture, when you're the driver, you're the one who has the responsibility to fix it.
Yes.
The constitutional authority given to the president, he cannot afford to go back to just history. Yes, there is history, but he is the current leader. And for that reason, he has the highest responsibility, together with other people, to be the one addressing this. This is not a time for shifting blame. It is a time of finally consulting all the people that are required technically to to devise all the solutions. When you think about corruption, the young people and the people who believe in this country are going for every institution. There are people who have had village protests over Kenya Power. That didn't need to go to the president, but people are saying things are not working and we are not okay with them not working. Is that very, very problematic? I don't think so.
But have these people been sponsored to be out there?
Let's imagine now. Let's get to that level.
These people.
And I'll speak for TISA, the Institute for Social Accountability. Our mandate is active citizenship for accountable government. That is what we have always worked on since our registration in 2008 as a trust. They say we are registered under societies, and so we are registered as a trust. We've worked on issues of accountability, starting from CDF, that we now agree if we had free education, there would be no place for CDF.
Absolutely.
We've worked on accountability around devolution, counties. The Institute is the reason that the Senate, the division of revenue must first pass before we go to appropriate the rest of the budget. Is that a wrong thing? No. Adherence to the Constitution. I have been on these streets of the media when we said, ultimately, when it comes to the budget and revenue-raising measures, the buck stops with Parliament. Speak to your members of Parliament. Kenyans may have listened. And that is something that is in the Constitution. But you know, sometimes I'm even tickled. Gosh, are we this influential? It's amazing. It would be amazing if it was true. But look at the millions of Kenyans who've been on the streets. There was a day there was over 4 million people across the country. I have never funded a demonstration, so I don't know. But I'm told for the type of people you see on the street, they would need 1,000, 2,000. So if you have 1 million people on the street, and you're paying them 1,000, how much do you need? 1 billion. 1 billion. That is not a quarter of the entire funding that has come from the Ford Foundation. Funding that is supposed to last 24 months. We live on very meager budget. I will never afford an assistant, 10 secretaries. No, I drive myself everywhere because our budgets are very, very lean. When you say people are funded by foreign money, they are funded on foreign taxpayers. And the PBO ought to come so that we start funding our own people, civil society organization, using our own taxes. The Public Benefit Organization Act was effected in May this year. There is a whole year, transition year for compliance. For those who are moving from NGO coordination, they move automatically to PBO. If you're registered under another body and you want to enjoy the benefits of being a public benefit organization, which includes not paying tax, being exempt from things like income tax, things like that, receiving money from government, benefit, preferential treatment when it comes to public procurement, you apply. Organizations are thinking, do I want that as yet? And there's a whole period of compliance.
There's still time for compliance.
For compliance.
Right.
And unfortunately, for government, from the president to the PS Foreign Affairs, and now to the PBO chair and ED, to take that route. Let us protect our media, our civil society, even as we enjoy this moment when all Kenyans are speaking up for them.
But
we are a democratic.
Too much ado about foreign funding. My president just told us 2 months ago that his trip to America was funded by foreigners. Was that mutiny? Was that treason? I mean, we are taking debt. We are how much is funded
all our debt.
By debt.
All our
foreign money.
Foreign money.
No,
the problem is not
we cannot be that simplistic.
But the timing.
Just allow me to interject and request. I've seen a post on the Citizen TV Kenya Facebook page, and it says, "I don't understand the frustration of young people." I actually said, "I understand the frustration of young people." So kindly, before I am roasted on social media, kindly have that amended.
I'll give you a minute to tell Kenyans that you understand their plight. What is that plight from where you sit?
Thank you.
I'm giving you a minute.
I do understand the high rate of unemployment, and I understand we put in place when we gained independence are not systems that are pro-Kenyan people. They are systems that only serve the rich.
The plight of the Kenyan people.